In the 11th century, Constantinople stands as a city of gold and shadow. The seat of power is the Great Palace, a maze of halls, silken curtains, and guarded doors. Empress Zoe Porphyrogenita, born in the purple, carries the hopes of a dynasty that has no son to succeed it. Her marriage to Emperor Romanos III Argyros is a pact of law and faith, but the empire demands more. An heir, a stable line, a steady hand. When a handsome chamber attendant named Michael is seen too often near the Empress's rooms, whispers spread. The stakes are everything: reputation, salvation, and the Byzantine throne itself. Morning in the Great Palace begins with a bell and the careful lifting of curtains. Light slips through latticed windows, touching mosaics of saints and emperors. The air smells faintly of beeswax and incense. In a basin, water steams. A handmaiden warms a comb. An old attendant folds a veil made of gauze so fine it floats like breath. Empress Zoe sits beneath a canopy of embroidered silk. Her title, Porphyrogenita, rests on her like a crown even when she is unadorned. She is not young, and not naive. She speaks in a calm voice, precise and soft. She chooses a ring with a pale amethyst and a small glass vial of perfume. The stopper is wrapped with gold thread, a gift from a foreign envoy. She lifts it, smelling roses and a darker note she cannot name. Across the palace, Emperor Romanos III moves through a different world. He counts coins, dreams of building churches, rehearses pious phrases he will offer the patriarch. He loves ceremony. He loves the theater of ruling. He is kind to those who praise him, and distant with those who remind him of age, of time, of duty left undone. He wants an heir, but it is spoken of as if it will walk into the room by itself. The palace rhythm is exact. Eunuch officials pace with scrolls. The Varangian guard, tall, with axes upright, stand like pillars where pillars already stand. Clean sandals cross clean floors. An enslaved attendant, eyes down, carries figs for the morning tray. A clerk dips his pen and writes the day's names in a long, low hand. In this measured world walks Michael of Paphlagonia. He is not born to silk. He is handsome. This is a matter of record, though the word used is comely. His brother, John the Orphan Atropos, is a powerful eunuch who manages orphans and politics with the same stern care. Michael carries letters through doorways no one sees, learns to move when the guards move, to breathe when the room breathes. The first time Zoe sees him, he is passing with a stack of folded linen. He looks up by mistake. Their eyes meet. He lowers his gaze at once. Love in a palace is not like love in a poem. It moves under the carpet, behind the painted screen. It is written in the schedule, a carriage delayed, a visit to the chapel extended by 10 minutes, a servant given an errand to the wrong wing at the right time. Zoe understands time. She marks each day by the bell at dawn and the hush at noon when the palace takes its breath. A ring taps a table. The amethyst catches the morning light. Zoe hears Romanos praise artisans from Antioch, hears him speak of the aqueduct he wishes to repair. He does not speak of her eyes or her hands, and she does not ask. She feels the law on her shoulders like a mantle. Indissoluble marriage, vows made before God, the order of all things. She also feels a life in which no one's hand reaches for hers, unless a court ceremony demands it. Winter shifts toward spring. Michael's visits become routine, which is the best disguise. He carries folded towels to the baths, and once he leaves a cloth on a bench without fully stepping inside. The cloth is white, with a border of purple thread. A hand picks it up from the other side of the screen. Neither speaks. The perfume in the room is not incense, but something human and uncertain. Attendants notice patterns, because patterns protect them. A handmaiden tells another, only with a glance, that the Empress's mirror has a thumbprint not hers. A steward finds a small piece of wax on the threshold, as if the seal of a private letter warmed and softened and slipped. A clerk changes the entry for a chapel visit from Vespers to Prime and crosses it out, and no one asks him why. He is careful to blot the ink. The city presses in. A mosaic in Hagia Sophia shows Empress Zoe offering a cross. The image is supposed to calm, but it starts to speak too loudly of what should be true. In the Hippodrome, blue and green factions shout at chariots, and sometimes at policy, and sometimes at nothing at all. The palace tries not to listen, but rumors walk on thin legs and somehow run fast. Romanos III senses a draft in a room with no windows. He sees that a candle has moved an inch. He sees that his empress smiles at small things that have nothing to do with him. He sees his own reflection and cannot hold its gaze. He orders prayers. He signs documents. He repairs a church roof. He begins to watch doors, to measure steps. Michael's brother John knows how to math the heart into politics. A woman without an heir meets a man without title. She is the source of legitimacy. He is the spark of a different sort of power. John's hands are always clean, because he never touches the thing itself. He only moves the tray upon which it rests. He introduces his brother to work closer to the Empress's apartments. He tells no one, especially not Michael, what he hopes for. He does not need to. The world already leans in that direction. One evening, Zoe opens the golden thread around the perfume vial. She holds the stopper, thin as a reed. The scent rises like memory. She does not move to the edge of danger. Danger comes like a tide and touches her foot. She looks toward the curtain. Michael is not there. He is in another wing, or in a dream, or in a future that has not happened. She sets the vial down, closed. Later, a small ring is left under a folded linen napkin. It is not royal. It is a simple copper band. It cannot be worn in public. It cannot even be worn in private without the risk of being seen. Zoe holds it, then returns it to the napkin. She keeps only the knowledge that someone thought of her as a woman, not only an empress. She thinks of the dynasty, of her father's voice, of the law's steady weight. She does not know yet the price of one more step. In a corridor, the Varangian guard shifts. The captain hears a soft laugh and pretends he did not. The great palace feels the tremor of a choice not yet chosen. And in the steam of a bath, where water beads on marble like tears that cannot fall, a door is quietly pushed closed from the inside. The latch settles. A hush spreads like a veil. The question is not whether someone will pay. The question is how much and when. Zoe looks up when the bell rings the hour. She touches the amethyst ring and thinks, if I step forward, will the empire step back? She holds a glance in the doorway. It is a promise and a warning both. Some stories say it begins with a misplaced glove. A thin kid leather glove, the Empress's size, found in a passage where she rarely walks. The chamberlain returns it to her with 2 hands and eyes lowered. He does not look to see if she blushes. He cannot tell if she even breathes. Other stories say it begins with a note. 4 words on a sliver of parchment tucked under a bowl of pomegranates. The bell at none. No name, no place, only a time. The paper smells faintly of ink and something floral, as if it sat near oils too rich for its station. A carriage arrives outside the Blachernay church. It departs 10 minutes later with the blinds drawn. A deacon pauses at the door, sensing that the schedule is off by a hair. He says nothing. He has learned what silence buys. In the bath wing, a towel is left to warm. Michael brings it on a wooden rod so he does not touch it, so it will not be held against him that his hands knew anything they should not know. A voice behind a screen asks for rose water. He sets it down and steps back. The steam carries his breath away. Whoever is on the other side reaches for the jar. Their hands do not meet. An old eunuch, who has seen 3 emperors crowned and 2 funeral processions from within the palace walls, notes in his own ledger that jars of perfume go faster now. He writes a note in the margin. Perhaps the change in weather. Later he scratches it out. He has never liked lies that are small. A steward switches the candles in the Empress's room for longer burning ones. He explains, when asked, that the dark comes earlier nowadays, though the calendar says otherwise. The explanation satisfies no one. It demands no reply. Romanos III prays longer. He sends gifts to monasteries. He orders a new chalice. He pretends he does not see the extra guards near his wife's rooms. Guards that are not his, whose oath is to the Empress as Augusta, not to him as husband. He considers replacing them. He considers the fury that would meet his hand if he tried. He is emperor. He is alone. The palace hums with minor changes. Attendants turn away from walls they once faced. Doors that never closed now close for 5 minutes. A bell rings in the kitchens. A stew is left too long and then salted to hide it. A scribe copies a prayer twice and drops both copies when he hears a laugh he cannot place in the hall outside. He picks them up, smudges ink on his thumb, and wipes it on his robe like a guilty man. One afternoon, Zoe stands in a gallery lined with tapestries of hunting scenes. She touches a deer woven in silk. Behind her, Michael stops 3 paces away. The distance is a wall. It is also a promise not to trespass. They speak of nothing: the weather, a song she heard in the palace chapel, the way the sea looks from the Bucolian harbor when the light is new. A handmaiden pretends to adjust a curtain. The curtain needs nothing. Her eyes go from one face to the other, and she knows. She will tell no one. She understands hunger that is not for food. John the Orphanatrophos remains the quiet shadow in every scene. He arranges the city like a board. He moves pieces without touching them. He speaks with the patriarch once, about nothing they will admit later. He speaks with Romanos once, about charity. He speaks with his brother about nothing at all. He merely looks at him until Michael understands that the line between his own beating heart and the empire's beating heart is thinner than silk. Not all whispers are about love. Some are about law. In the baths, a deacon says to a groom, "The Empress may not take another husband while the first lives." In a corridor, a woman who cleans the marble steps prays for the Empress anyway, because she remembers what it is to want and be unseen. In a storage room, a jar falls from a shelf and shatters. A smell of bitter resins and sweet oils fills the air. Someone says, "Close the door." No one wants to be the one to open it again. Romanos walks to the baths on an April morning. He waves away attendants. Steam blurs the edge of everything. He is tired. He lowers himself into the water. A servant places a cloth on the ledge. He closes his eyes. He was taken by faintness. He was held beneath by treacherous hands. The chronicles do not agree. The water closes. The candle wavers. Silence can be loud. The palace holds its breath. The door is shuttered from within. It opens when enough fists pound it. Romanos lies still. His chest, it is said, bears marks. Or perhaps not. It depends on which court clerk you ask, whose ledger you hold, which witness was brave enough to speak and naive enough to write it down. Someone crosses themselves. Someone runs in soft shoes. By evening, a robe is laid out for the Empress. The robe is not black. It is woven with gold. A new crown rests on a cushion. The patriarch is summoned. He arrives with a face that a painter would have to get exactly right to avoid scandal. The city learns quickly, or pretends it has not learned at all. The question shifts from, "What happened?" to, "What will we do now?" The law must bless what the heart has already dared. The choir warms their voices. A ring, Michael's ring, glints. The perfume vial is unopened on a table. Zoe looks at it and then looks away. The palace prepares in a strange, hurried quiet. Romanos's body is not yet cold in some accounts. In others, a night passes. What is certain is this: within hours, or perhaps a day, Zoe stands beneath a canopy once more. The patriarch hesitates. He looks at the faces around him. He knows the law. He knows the city. He knows the empire cannot stand a vacuum. He also knows that if he refuses, the palace might explode in ways that cannot be contained by prayer. He lifts his hands. The ceremony begins. Michael's hands tremble when he takes the oath. He is handsome, and his eyes are wet. This is not a stage detail. It is what people remember when they tell the story later. He does not look at John. He does not look at the guards. He looks at Zoe, and for a breath, he is only a man in love. Then the crown touches his head. He is an emperor. He is Michael IV. The choir sings. A ring slides onto a finger. Wax seals are warmed. A clerk writes a date, then scratches it out and writes another. Chronicles will later disagree. The patriarch signs a document. His pen leaves a blot. He does not wipe it. The immediate consequence is confusion. Who is sovereign? By right, Zoe is. By office, Michael now is. By force, John holds the keys. The Varangian guard waits for orders and follows the gold wherever it points. The Senate whispers. The people outside the palace ask, "Who sits the throne?" The answer is not simple. A woman whose blood grants legitimacy. A man whose marriage grants proximity. A eunuch whose control of corridors grants power. Michael IV discovers that love in private is not the same as love in public. He is ill. In secret, he has seizures. He fears that if Zoe sees him falter, he will be lowered in her esteem. He avoids her. She notices. John the orphan Atrophus sees everything. He places intermediaries between husband and wife, screens, schedules, officials, letters delivered by third hands. Zoe feels the palace closing around her like a ring too tight for the finger. The ring she wears in public cuts the skin she cannot show. At night, a messenger arrives from the Balkans with news of rebellion. Michael must ride. He must be a soldier or pretend to be one. John insists. Zoe watches her husband leave by lamplight. He does not look back at her window, or if he does, we do not know. A clerk writes in the ledger, "The emperor departed before dawn." He adds in tiny script, visible only if you hold the page in raking light. His hands shook. Months pass. Zoe is alone behind gilded doors. She attends ceremonies, lights candles in chapels, listens to sermons about queens who moved their kingdoms with patience or with tears. She chooses a necklace every morning and feels it like a chain. She places the perfume vial in a drawer and decides not to open it again. She hosts foreign envoys. She assures them the empire is strong. She keeps her voice even and her back straight. She knows how to be a symbol. She also knows symbols can break. The question of heirs becomes a blade. Zoe is older. Michael is not well. The dynasty has no boy in the porphyry chamber. The law bends only so far before it snaps. John proposes a solution. A nephew, Michael's sister's son, will be brought to court, named Michael as well, to be a future torchbearer. His father is a calker by trade. People call the nephew Caliphates, the calker's son. He is not noble in the old sense. He is, however, malleable in the way that pleases John. Zoe dislikes this. It is not the son she imagined. It is not blood of her blood. It is a rope thrown toward a cliff she is falling from. She resists. John waits. He speaks to the patriarch. He speaks to the Senate. He arranges slowly and invisibly a future that feels inevitable when it arrives. One winter evening in AD 1041, the palace gathers in a small hall. The walls are painted with vines. The air smells of smoke and damp wool. On a table lies a scroll. Its seal is blank. The wax sits in a small dish with a flame ready. Michael IV, pale and tired from war and sickness, sits heavily. Zoe sits upright, a hand on the table, the amethyst ring catching firelight and sending it back. John stands to the side, at ease and absolutely still. The patriarch reads words about adoption, about succession, about divine order. The scroll will name Michael Caliphates, heir apparent, adopted by Zoe as a son, wrapped in imperial legitimacy. The words are legal and heavy. The wax is warmed. The seal is lifted. Zoe hesitates. Her hand, steady for years in ceremonies whose meanings were safe, shakes. She thinks of the boy, of his eager, uncertain eyes. She thinks of her own childhood, of corridors where she learned to keep secrets. She thinks of the day she chose love, and of this night where love chooses something else for her. Michael the Forer looks at her, and for the first time in a long time, their eyes meet without a screen. She sees fear in his face. Not of her. Of death, of failure, of being the emperor who could not protect what he built. She thinks, if I refuse, I protect my past but not my future. If I sign, I save the throne and betray myself. She takes the seal. She presses it into wax. The image forms. It is clean and complete. A sound in the corridor. A servant drops a tray. The seal wobbles. For a second, the impression is almost smudged. A hand steadies the scroll just in time. The mistake will be remembered later as a sign, and perhaps it is, but of what and to whom depends on when you ask. The adoption is announced in the quiet way powerful things are, with minimal ceremony, with maximum control. The city notes the new Michael. Priests pray his name. People mutter that a boy of cocker stock will carry jewels he did not earn. Others say, when God lifts, who are we to pull down? Zoe receives him in a hall where saints look down in tesserae. She places her hand for him to kiss. His lips are dry. Soon after, Michael the Forer's health breaks. He goes to the monastery of the Holy Unmercenaries, seeking rest, prayer, and the balm of quiet stone. He retreats behind cloister walls made to keep the world out and the soul in. Zoe visits once. Some say she sees him only through a lattice. He dies as winter approaches, in early December 1041. Bells ring. The city stops. The throne is not empty. It is in dangerous hands. Michael V. Caliphates steps into a role larger than his frame can carry. He swears loyalty to his adoptive mother. He takes the regnal name. He looks at his Uncle John with a measured hate that surprises those who watch him. He has learned from the master. He has his own plans. He is a spark in a dry building. The new emperor, Michael V, moves swiftly. He dismisses John the orphan Atrophos, sending him into exile with rare speed. The crowd notes this with approval. Too much power in one eunuch's hands had made the city restless. Michael V returns to Zoe's presence with gestures of respect. He kisses her hand, calls her Augusta, praises her lineage. He attends a service at Hagia Sophia and stands to her left. He understands theater. Behind closed doors, he plans to stand alone. He is young. He is proud. He wants to be the man who repaired what love had loosed. He wants to be free of the woman whose affection once chose a new emperor, while the last still breathed. The city does not know this yet. It will. Zoe resumes her routine. She chooses bracelets and habits. She visits chapels by torchlight. She takes counsel with the Senate. She speaks in measured sentences. She believes, perhaps, that she can still shape this, still hold the reins through patience and presence. She sends a letter to an ally in the provinces with her personal seal, the amethyst ring pressed into warm wax. A small act of sovereignty. Michael V hunts for reasons to rule without her. He finds one in imagined plots, or in whispers presented to him by men who want her gone, and their own hands on the levers. He accuses her of mismanaging funds or of plotting with officials loyal to the late Michael IV. The charges are thick smoke. The fire beneath them is thin. He calls guards in the night. Doors open with keys that should not be in his pockets. The Varangian guard, uncertain, watches orders cross each other in the hall. An attendant hears a cry at dawn. A door closes. A veil drops. Zoe is taken from her rooms. No violence. Only too many hands guiding a single body. She is put into a carriage without crest or escort. She is taken to a monastery on an island in the sea, where the city looks like a painted map across the water. Her head may be shaved in the manner of a nun. A chronicle says so. Another says it was threatened and not done. A third is silent. She is given a cell with a single lamp. The palace announces, the Augusta has chosen a life of prayer. The city hears, she has been expelled. The difference is a candle's width. It does not hold. Markets murmur. Priests look at each other and say nothing. Women who have never seen the Empress nevertheless feel a thread go taut inside them and then snap. Hagia Sophia fills. Men and women press into aisles. A priest tries to calm them. A hush falls, then a roar. They flood into the streets. The chalky gate, with its bronze panels, suddenly remembers old battles. People tear at it with their hands. Axes appear. The Varangian Guard is there, their tall axes gleaming. Their orders are unclear, and their oath includes protection of the imperial family, which still includes the Empress. They hold, then falter, then stand aside in places where the crowd is too thick to cut. Flames lick at the palace quarter. The hippodrome seethes with more than games. The city feels like a chest with a tight band around it. Michael V., startled by the speed of it all, appears on a balcony. The crowd answers not with cheers, but with a wall of human sound that says, "Bring her back." Some throw stones. One hits a column, chips it. The chip falls like a single tooth from a very old jaw. Envoys rush to the monastery. Zoe is brought back in haste. Her hair is covered by a veil. When she appears at the balcony with Michael, the city roars again, not all in joy. She is shown like a hostage released briefly, not like a sovereign returned. People shout the name of her sister, Theodora. Theodora has lived quietly. She is wise and strong in a way that does not need anyone to see it. She is brought to Hagia Sophia. She is crowned in the sacred space, incense mixing with sweat and tears. Michael V has misjudged not just a woman, but a city's memory. He strengthened the love the people had for their empress by trying to remove it. He made the throne wobble by standing harder upon it. The palace is now 2 thrones, Zoe's gilded place beside her sister's, and a young man whose crown begins to feel very hot upon his head. Meetings in chambers turn into accusations. Documents are written and left unsigned. The Senate calls and then denies. The patriarch walks the line between the altar and the palace door. Rumor and decree collide and bounce off the walls. Proof remains elusive. Strong arms decide what unsigned papers cannot. Michael V makes a desperate choice. He flees. Not far, just to the Studios monastery, hoping that sacred walls will grant sanctuary. He removes his crown. He places it on the altar. Sanctuary is a word that should hold like a bolt, but it has loosened in his hand. Men follow him into the church. They do not draw blood. They do what is done to usurpers in this place and time. We will not linger on methods. We say only what is written carefully in several chronicles. He is blinded and exiled. The light closes and will not open again. Not. Zoe and Theodora sit upon the twin thrones. The city sighs like a horse that has been ridden too hard. Fires are stamped out. Accounts are kept. The gate is repaired. The perfume vial in the Empress's drawer is still. Someone finally stops a bell that has been ringing too long. The immediate storm passes, but the sky is not clear. Zoe, restored, looks into a mirror and sees a face that has lived more lives than one woman should. She wears the amethyst ring. She touches the place where hair is covered by a veil. She knows that love has made her and unmade her and made her again different. The Empire, as always, needs a man beside the Empress for certain rituals the law still clings to. Zoe marries again, Constantine Monomachos, a man whose charm is public record. He is thoughtful, eloquent, and fond of pleasures the city notices. He brings with him a woman he loves, Maria Sclerena, not his wife and not an empress, but a companion he cannot leave behind. The palace learns a new shape, 3 figures where there should be 2. Zoe, older and practiced in masks, allows Maria to exist in these halls. This is not surrender. It is calculation. It keeps the new emperor near and grateful. It buys quiet where shouting would fail. It also tears small new holes in a fabric already worn. The court watches, wide-eyed. The city does too. It does not always approve. Once, in AD 1044, a rumor swells that Zoe has been harmed to make way for Maria. People rush again toward the palace. They are calmed only when Zoe herself appears, blank-faced but alive. The rumor falls, but the crack in trust remains. John the orphan Atrophus, exiled, fades into a quiet end. Michael V, blinded, dies away from the palace he burned his hands reaching for. Romanos III lies in a grave whose cause of death scholars still debate. Michael IV stands in memory as a figure made of love and fear and sickness and statecraft too heavy for him. Zoe's tapestry of life is now stitched with threads of law, incense, sweat, smoke, and the salt of the sea that carried her to a monastery and back. The dynasty, Macedonian in name if not in unbroken blood, has survived, but by a thread that frays. Enemies watch at the edges. Generals plot on maps. Merchants watch the coin's face for the empress's image and wonder how long it will last. The curtain in the palace sways in a draft that no one can find. The perfume vial, moved from the drawer to a box, gathers dust that looks like ash. Yet daily life resumes, stubborn and ordinary as bread. Candles are trimmed. Bells ring. Quick footsteps soften on thick rugs. Clerks write dates that later scholars will argue about, and each number has a human face attached. One evening, Zoe sits with her sister in a quiet gallery. They speak about nothing important. Lemon trees, the way the light moves across the marble stairs in late afternoon. Zoe looks at Theodora's hands. They are steady. She thinks, "What we have saved is a chair. What we have lost is sleep." She touches the amethyst ring. It catches the last light like it did in the beginning. It is heavier now. It has learned the weight of vows and veils, of armies and whispers, of a city that can love you once you have lost your way and then found it again, only to lose something else. Years pass. Seasons turn. The great palace changes occupants, then grows quiet. A worker repairing a floorboard in a small side room finds a tiny glass object rolled against the wall. It is a perfume vial, no longer fragrant, its gold thread darkened. He wipes it with the edge of his sleeve. For a second, the light inside the glass looks like something living, and then is gone. What do we know? Records agree that Romanos III died in his bath in April 1034, and that Zoe married Michael IV within hours or days. They agree that Michael IV ruled with the steady hand of his brother John behind him, fought rebellions, and died in 1041. They confirm that Zoe adopted Michael V, who, once emperor, exiled her, and that the people of Constantinople rose in her defense. They record that Zoe and Theodora co-ruled briefly, that Michael V was blinded and exiled, and that Zoe later married Constantine Monomachos. What do we debate? Whether Romanos was drowned or simply failed in the bath. Whether the patriarch was coerced into a hasty marriage ceremony or acted to prevent chaos. Whether Zoe's love for Michael was a lightning strike or a slow candle burn fanned by her isolation. Whether Michael IV's avoidance of Zoe was shame or strategy. Whether Michael V's betrayal was his own idea or the whisper of a faction that wanted the Empress's voice silenced. And what do we remember? That power and love can inhabit the same room and make it both warmer and more dangerous. That a dynasty is a living thing, made of names and vows that can be broken by a glance as surely as by a blade. That the city's voice can shake palace walls when the delicate balance snaps. That behind every seal set in wax are hands that tremble, steady themselves, and press down. If you visit Hagia Sophia today, you can still see a mosaic of Empress Zoe offering a cross. The face beside her has been changed, an emperor altered by time's edits, but the gold tesserae still catch the light. Somewhere in the great palace, a perfumed memory lingers, even if the vial is long gone. The wax seals she pressed are broken now, the documents read, the choices visible. The image that remains is simple, a ring catching firelight, a veil stirred by breath, a closed door, a city waiting on the other side.